Charleston, South Carolina. Cobblestone streets, pastel houses, a charming southern drawl, and, of course, murder. Because if you thought that this gentle port city was all shrimp and grits, buckle up. This is the story of Lavinia Fisher, the woman remembered as America's first female serial killer who turned her trial into theater, her execution into a freak show, and her ghost into Charleston's worst wedding crasher. Early in the 1800s, Lavinia and her husband John ran a boarding house on the road to Charleston called the 6 Mile Wayfarer House. It looked like a cozy inn, the kind of place where you'd get a hot meal, maybe a warm bath, and, oh yeah, a free trip to hell. Here's how the legend goes. Lavinia would charm lonely travelers, pour them tea laced with oleander, and then send them to bed. That bed, reportedly, was rigged to collapse, dropping that poor sap into the cellar, and waiting below was John, who would finish the job with an axe. Or a knife, it depends on which version of the story you believe. This was Southern hospitality rebranded as Southern homicide. Now eventually, the rumors of what Lavinia and her husband were doing got to be too loud to ignore. Men were disappearing, possessions were vanishing, horses went missing, and by 1819, Lavinia and John were arrested and charged not just with highway robbery, but with the deaths of multiple travelers. Here's the kicker. In South Carolina at that time, highway robbery was a capital offense. You did not get off with a slap to the wrist. You got a rope around your neck. But there was a problem. The law said women could not be executed if they were married, which frankly sounds like the kind of legal loophole that every true crime podcast has dreams about. So how did the judge get around this particular loophole? Well, easy. He ordered John Fisher to be hanged first. Boom, marriage over, widow made, and weren't no law that says that a widow couldn't be hung, and just like that, Lavinia Fisher was legally fair game for the gallows. And so it's said on February 18, 1820, Lavinia Fisher made her grand finale here, and she did it in style. Instead of the traditional prison rags, she showed up in a long, flowing, pale blue wedding gown. Why? Because if she couldn't die a wife, she'd live as a bride. And let's be real, this is the kind of goth queen energy before Hot Topic was even a sparkle in the void. She was led up the scaffold, begging the crowd to marry her, not out of love, but out of legal desperation. If someone said, "I do," the execution would have been canceled. Now, of course, nobody volunteered because no one was that stupid. But come on, fellas, where's your sense of romance? When the executioner asked Lavinia what her final words were, she didn't cry, she didn't beg, she did not even repent. She just turned to the crowd, grinned, and shouted, "If you have a message for the devil, give it to me now, 'cause I'll be dining with him tonight." And with that, she leapt off the platform herself, flinging her body into the noose before the hangman could even drop the trap door, which is totally baller, but here's the gruesome part. It didn't work. The fall was not far enough to snap her neck. Instead, she strangled. For 30 agonizing minutes, her face flushed red, her eyes bulged, and the whole time, she kept laughing. Witnesses swore she looked like a demon, kicking and choking until the laughter finally went silent. Imagine being in that crowd. You come for a nice public hanging, and instead you get a one-woman horror show. I took my kids to this. Are you kidding me? Lavinia's body was buried in an unmarked grave in a potter's field to prevent it from becoming the world's first unisex toilet. But her story did not end there. White Point Garden, the park where she was hanged, is said to be haunted by her spirit. Brides who come to pose for photos beneath these beautiful oaks sometimes report being shoved, scratched, or even choked by unseen hands. Others say they've heard Lavina's mocking laughter on the wind, the same laughter that she let out as she hung from that noose all those years ago. Tour guides will warn you even today, don't wear white in White Point Garden. Lavinia Fisher hates brides. Maybe she's jealous, maybe she's bitter, or maybe she just enjoys ruining happy endings. So who was Lavinia Fisher really? Some say she was a cold-blooded killer who murdered travelers for profit. Others say the story was exaggerated into folklore, Charleston's way of feeding its ghost tour industry. But everyone agrees. She went to her death without fear, without shame, and without an ounce of regret. Or common sense. Lavinia begged for a husband. She laughed at the devil, she strangled for half an hour, and left behind a legend that refused to die. So, if you're ever in Charleston strolling through White Point Garden, and you hear laughter from the shadows, maybe it's just Lavinia, wondering if you'd like to share a nice hot cup of tea.